Hello parents and professionals. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to be honest with children without causing them to worry. So the reason why I'm sharing this content with you today is because I'm seeing a lot of other colleagues, quite frankly, and professionals who are talking about how to talk to your children about coronavirus. And whilst I'm sure there's some really good information about how to do that, I also think that we shouldn't be having to write those sorts of articles in the first place, because your kids shouldn't be worrying about this. Now, I know that that is easier said than done with the level of media that there is covering this, and not necessarily wrongly. I think that people need to be informed. We just don't need to be inundated, and we also don't need the scaremongering. Now, when grown-ups panic and are worried and maybe get a little bit obsessed with the news, weirdly, so do the young people that are around them, be those your students or your children. There are some times when children do not need to know about this. If you have very young children, all they need to know is that it's a good idea to wash your hands so that you do not get germs in your tummy and get poorly. And that's about the size of it. We don't need to be going into levels of detail around, viruses and the fact that people are going to get very unwell and granny might die and all of you don't need to go into that level of specificity with it. The younger they are, or the more immature, this isn't necessarily an age thing necessarily, maybe they are naive and immature or prone to worry. Keep it simple, keep it basic, teach them the good hygiene stuff, but don't let them get latched onto all of this fear-mongering that there is around what's going on in the world at this particular time. There are some things that your children just don't need to know, and you might want to share with them because you want to be honest with them. You might want to share with them because if you tell them, then it's better than them hearing it from somewhere else. But just really carefully consider the level, the depth and the detail that they need to know and what they're actually capable of processing in a positive way. The next important thing is that we remind them frequently of their strengths and the strengths of people in general. It's really important that when there is something like what we've got going on right now with coronavirus, that we all remind ourselves that actually human beings are tough, we are robust, we are clever, we have solved the AIDS epidemic in the past, we are researching new things about cancer all of the time. There's been bigger, scarier illnesses that human beings have got through and got over in the past and have even completely defeated. So we want to be, if we are going to be talking to our young people about what this virus is and what it means, we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way where we actually empower them to believe that on the other side of this, and we are going to go through it, but on the other side of it, things will be all right because we're a tough old bunch and we will get through this. And finally, we want them to get good at self-installing certainty. What I mean by that is sometimes when young people get anxious, they begin to ask a lot of questions. And then as adults, we want to sort of fill that void and answer the question for them. So they might say something like, but what happens if my school closes because everybody's got sick? And then you say, well, if your school closes, they're going to have to take time off work, blah, 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 and you give them all of the answers to the question. And then in the next breath, they say, yeah, but what if Granny gets it and then everyone in Granny's care home gets it? And you go, well, if that happens, blah, 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 blah. What happens in that conversation between, that ping-ponging of them kind of going, but what if, and you going, then this, and them going, but what if, and you going, and then this, is that you're not really alleviating their concern. What they need to do is to alleviate the concern for themselves, and that only happens when they begin to answer their own questions. So you've all seen it in the past where a parent has told their child, you look really nice today. Or maybe even like a husband or a partner has said it to you, where they go, you look lovely. And it's like you don't hear it. You just sort of go, yeah, whatever. And then someone else says it, who's a complete outsider, and you go, oh, thanks. But you wouldn't have acknowledged it when it was from someone that was actually really close to you. In the same way, it's a different experience when you know in yourself that you look good versus somebody telling you. So that self-certainty, where you know it for yourself, is a much stronger position to be in than trying to get certainty out of somebody else to make you feel better. And this is what's happening, when children are asking us these questions and they're going, but what if, they're seeking out certainty, but they're not finding it in your answers, which is why they keep going with the questions. So what you need to do in response is to respond with another question. So they go, what if everyone in my school gets coronavirus and they shut the school down? And then you go, well, what do you think would happen? Like, you tell me, how are we going to get through that? And they go, well, you'll have to take time off work. And you go, okay, so I take time off work. Then what happens? They go, well, you might not get paid by your boss. And you go, well, I might not get paid by my boss. Then what's going to happen? Well, I might not be able to buy any food. Well, all right, so let's say we don't buy any food for a week. Have we got enough food in the cupboard? Yeah. All right, so worst case scenario, your school gets shut down, have to take time off work, we can't do any food shopping, and we live off baked beans for a month. Is that going to be okay? Will we survive that? Is it all right? So you start getting them to think, because the great thing is they're going to be way more creative with their answers than you would have ever been anyway. So you're going to put the questions back on them to get them coming up with the solution. And as soon as they've got one, then you go, and what else? What else could happen? And what else could happen, so that they end up with multiple solutions to any one problem that they've raised. And you can help them with that. You can give them guidance and ideas and go, oh, maybe this, or that's a really good answer, actually. I would never have thought of that. You've just come up with something there that's actually a really good idea. We should probably tell the government, that kind of thing. So that they start to create certainty for themselves and don't always need to seek it out from you. So, moral of the story is, we are going to be honest with our young people, but possibly only to a point, depending on their age and stage of development. We are going to remind them that humans are strong and robust and clever, creative people, and we are going to get them addressing their own worries with their own very smart solutions to help them create self-soothing certainty that ultimately everything is going to be all right. So thank you all so much for watching and listening to today's video. If you have enjoyed this or found it useful in some way, then go ahead and smash that like button. Click the red subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. Leave me comments down below to let me know what tactics you've been using. Doesn't have to be in relation to coronavirus. We don't need to talk about that for the rest of our lives. But if you have some thoughts about how to be honest with young people without terrifying them with the level of honesty that you're sharing, then I would love to hear further tips down below. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will see you all next month. Keep well and have a great month. Bye for now. But wait, I thought of something else. Hang on. Two more things. Thing one is, if you have not already listened to the Missing Children UK podcast, which was released by my not-for-profit company, Superheroes. The first episode came out in February. We are just about to release another one. If you have an interest in young people, young people's mental health, then you will have an interest in children that go missing, because very often there is a correlation between missing people and mental health issues. So the first episode was about a young lady called Leah Croucher. The second episode is about a young man called Andrew Gosden, both of whom have now been missing for some time. We would love to hear your thoughts on that particular podcast. So if you head on over to the Superheroes website, which is superheroestraining.org, I'll put it on the screen because even I'm not sure of the URL for that particular website, where you will be able to download the podcast, or you can subscribe on Stitcher, Deezer, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of the usual podcasting platforms. You will find the Superheroes podcast there. It's called Missing Children UK. If you are able to make a donation to this show, we would so much appreciate that, because Superheroes carries out the kind of work that NLP for Kids does, but specifically provides it to those that would not otherwise be able to afford our services. So Superheroes works for children and young people in the community delivering NLP for Kids type work, but when their parents might not be able to afford for them to go through those sessions. This particular podcast is a way for us to raise awareness of the work that we do, as well as raising awareness of these missing young people, and to help us create some further donations and fundraising for Superheroes. That's thing one. Thing two, so many words, is if you have a young person in your life who is a worrier and you want to be honest with them, but you're worried about managing their worries, this is a lovely good book. A lovely good book that you might want to look into. It's called Stop Anxiety and Grow Confidence. It was published in 2016, so coming on 4 years old. There is some great tips and ideas in this book, actual strategies and processes that you can follow as a parent or professional to help the young people in your life to overcome anxiety and to grow their confidence levels. You can find this book on Amazon or via the NLP for Kids website. Please go and get it. And that is now everything. All right, thanks guys. See you in the next one. Bye.